Hey there, in this video we're going to talk about even and odd functions. An even function is a function that has symmetry about the y-axis. So meaning if you were to imagine if you could fold this along the y-axis, then they would match up. Algebraically, what that means is that if x is in the function, the f of x will be the same value for negative x. So what that means is that then f of negative x equals f of x. So negative x and x give you the exact same y value, f of x. So that's how you determine if a function is even algebraically. By looking at it, it just means it has symmetry about the y-axis. So again, imagine you can fold it along the y-axis, and then as you fold it, the two sides will match up. So this is an example of an even function. Now this one here is an odd function, and an odd function has symmetry about the origin. So symmetry about the origin means if you have x, and this is your f of x, then when you go to negative x, so this is negative x, you get negative f of x. So the y values essentially, the absolute values are the same, but one is just negative, so it would be negative f of x. So algebraically, what this means is that f of negative x is equal to negative f of x. And so in this case, we say we have symmetry about the origin. So if you were to draw a line here, I'm not doing a very good job, then when you fold along that line around the origin, they should match up, those 2 points. And so how do we determine if functions are even or odd? Sometimes it's pretty simple to determine. So determine if f of x is odd, even, or it could be neither. So some examples. So if I say a, for example, f of x is x to the 4th plus 2x squared, so you might guess, well, based on the exponents, they're even, so I'm going to guess that the function is even. So algebraically, I'm going to check this by finding f of negative x. And if it's even, f of negative x will be f of x, so the original function again. So if even, right, f of negative x, I'm going to end up with the exact same thing that I started with. If it's odd, then f of negative x, I should get a negative x to the 4th plus 2x squared. So I will get the opposite of what I started with. And if it's neither, then we'll get neither of those. So let's figure it out. So f of negative x means everywhere I see an x, we're going to plug in negative x. So I'm going to have negative x to the 4th plus 2 times negative x squared. Now when you raise a negative to an even power, the negative goes away. So in this case, I end up with a positive x to the 4th, and negative x squared is positive x, so I get plus 2x squared. So which case did I get? We got the first one, right? So that means that f of negative x is equal to f of x. So the function is even. Now let's try a second example. Say I have something like f of x is equal to, let's try x cubed plus 3x squared. And let's see what happens here. Now here I have a mixture of exponents, so it's kind of hard to know what's going to happen. So we could graph it and see about the symmetry. Is this symmetric about the y-axis or about the origin? But I'm going to do it algebraically. Let's find f of negative x, right? So same thing. If even, what's going to happen is that f of negative x is going to be the exact same thing. So it'll be x cubed plus 3x squared minus 1. If odd, then f of negative x, I should be able to get a negative out of the whole thing. So it'll be negative x cubed plus 3x squared minus 1. And if it's neither, then I shouldn't get any of those. So let's see. So f of negative x is going to be negative x cubed plus 3x squared. So 3 negative x squared, because I'm plugging in negative x, minus 1. And so f of negative x ends up being, remember, a negative raised to the third power to an odd power, it stays negative. So this would be negative x cubed, and then a negative raised to an even power, it becomes positive. So that would be plus 3x squared minus 1. So we don't get the original back. So it's not even, because we don't get the original back. So is it odd? To see if it's odd, take out the negative 1. Right? Take out the negative and see what you get. So then when I take out the negative, I get x cubed. So it's looking promising. That's a positive. But then to get a plus there, that means I must have had a negative. So minus 3x squared. And to get a minus there, that means I would have had to have a positive 1. So this is not f of x. So that means that f of negative x did not give us the original function, so it's not even. And it's also not odd because, too many things going on here. It's not odd because f of negative x did not give us negative f of x. So that means in this case, this function, we will say f of x is neither. So it's neither odd nor even. So that's what you're looking for. So in an odd function, if you just take out the negative 1, and then what you're left with, if is exactly what you started with, then that's how you know that it's an odd function. And so that's even and odd.